Hey everybody, Courtney here with Smitty's Fly Box, and we're going to be going over the intermediate fly for April 2023. And this is the 20-incher stone. Cool little pattern to tie, great little stonefly imitation. I've heard a lot about this pattern in the past, but I've actually never really fished it or tied it much until earlier this year. And it's just been such a good little pattern, fun to tie and a little challenging as well. So I figured it'd be a great one for the intermediate box this month. Great for when the high water starts and those big stones start getting kicked around. As you can see, I've already got some lead on here. This is just .020 lead. You could easily substitute that with lead-free wire or tungsten bead as well. I do recommend building up the thorax a little bit though with thread wraps if you don't do the lead. That'll help kind of keep the profile the right way. And so this is a 3.2 bead on the size 10 hook that we sent you. This nice little kind of curved hook here, just a little rolling stone hook is what we call it. And I'm just going to build up a little bit of a thread dam right here against the lead, and then I'm going to wrap back to my tie-in point, which is just going to be directly above the hook barb. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be tying in is my tail, and I've just trimmed out 2 of the brown Goose Biots. I'm going to pair these back to back so they face away from each other when I tie them in. That'll just help me have a nice profile. That'll help it kind of naturally fork. And I'm just going to lay those down, just split the tails between the hook. And my stonefly tails, when I tie them personally, I don't like the tails to be super long. I like the shorter, stubbier ones myself. You can play with that as you like. But I'm just going to grab those tails with my left hand, just pinch those right against the hook. I'm going to bring my thread up and around really loose at first, and then tighten that as I come down. And then I can start working forward, and I'm going to tie these butt ends just right down along the hook shank here, and that'll help me just keep that profile so there's no weird ledges or anything like that. And so then we have our little tails there, so you have that little split tail, little fork in it, and then I'm going to wrap back, and then if I just come really close here I can get that to split even more. So take my finger, just move that a little bit. Okay, so there's our little forked tail. I like to keep those relatively short and stubby. And then I'm going to take my tan floss that we have here for the ribbing. I'm going to take a section of that and tie that right against the side of the hook. I'll just tie that in against the side facing me, wrap him down, and then bring my thread back to the tail. And I'll leave that floss or that thread hanging out the back. Now we're going to tie in the abdomen. So the abdomen is just peacock herl, and I'm going to cut 2 of these peacock herl fibers out. I'm actually going to tie these in by the tips of the peacock, so I'll trim those even. And then I'll just tie those in right against the hook here. And now I can wrap forward. I'm going to come up onto these thread wraps a little bit, or the lead wraps just a little bit. And again, like I said, I did 10 wraps here, so that's kind of my indicator of where my abdomen's going to stop, is where my lead stops at. I'm going to start wrapping these forward. And the reason I tie it in by the tips is, as you can notice, if this will work on the camera, if you can see it, the tips are a little thinner, and obviously as you get towards the stem of that peacock feather, it's a little thicker, so the fibers are going to be naturally a little thicker. So this just kind of helps in the taper of this. And if it gets too bushy, I'll trim it a little bit. I'm just going to wrap these forward together. And just slightly come up onto the lead wraps. I'll bring my thread up and over with my left hand and bind those down. I'll cut my excess out. And then one thing I like to do is just kind of follow the angle of that hook, and I'm just going to trim this up a little bit. Now we're ready for our rib. I'm just going to bring that rib through the peacock. just nice even segments here. This will really secure that peacock from breaking on you. That floss is really thick, so I don't worry about that falling apart. Just make sure it's tied down well. And now that will also kind of flatten, help that peacock to not be so dominant on the fly. It kind of flattens it out a little bit. Okay, so now I'm ready for my wing case. Our wing case on this fly is just going to be some turkey. This is just a turkey tail. And when I make these wing cases, I usually try to aim for just about the same width as that bead. So I just cut that right off the stem, and then when those are all together, that's about the same width as the bead there. And then I'm going to tie these with the tops of that feather facing down. I'll take my thread up and around and bind that turkey down. And I always check for a dead spot here to make sure, so I got a little bit of a dead spot right there, so I'm going to wrap back just a little bit more, just so I have a nice blend of peacock right into my thorax there, so that's a little bit better. And we're going to add some dubbing. It's going to help bulk that up. And then this is our legs. We're just going to tie in a Hungarian partridge feather. I strip all the fuzzies away here, so I just have the nice pretty mottled look here. And I'm going to take that by the tip of the feather and just pull these legs down. And then I'm going to tie this guy in. So I'm going to have that little tip right here. And I'm going to tie him in right by the tip. So let's lay that down. So the top of the feather is facing down again, just like our turkey. And I'll just wrap over this excess here. Oops. Make sure you don't catch your legs. And now we're ready for our dubbing. So I'm going to leave that right there. We're going to fold that over in just a minute. And our dubbing, you could use, traditionally they use hare's ear dubbing on that. I'm going to use this gray sow scud dubbing. I like the look of this when it gets wet and dark. And it's pretty buggy too. So I'll roll some of that onto my thread. And now it's time to build the thorax. So I'm just going to start wrapping one good wrap here right against that wing and those legs, and then I'm just going to start wrapping forward and build up a little bit of a beefier body here. You could really use any type of dubbing here, really, if you wanted to. Spruce it up a little bit, do something different. Okay, I'm at the bead, so I'm going to position my thread right at the bead here. Now I'm going to take that Hungarian and fold it over. Just be careful not to pull too hard, it can easily break on you. And then I'll take these legs and try to part them right at the bead. I'll tie that feather down. Just try to keep that feather right on top of the hook. Take my scissors and I'll cut that remainder away. Okay, so that'll be our legs. I think that just gives a really good buggy profile. And now we can just fold our wing case up and through our legs here. And then I like to just, you can see that's pretty flat against the hook there. If you just kind of roll that wing case out, it'll help those legs kick out a little bit and also flatten that turkey. So now I'm going to bring my thread up and over. I'm going to just do a loose wrap, just the tension of the bobbin is all at first, just to get that tied down. Okay, and now I'll cinch down, looking good there. And then I'll just fold this back and do a few wraps right in front and anchor that turkey in really well. And then trim out our excess and we're solid, we're good to go. Again, this is one of our favorite flies we've been playing with this spring. It's been a really fun one to tie, really great to fish with as well. And so this is going to be a fun one for you, I think. Hope you enjoy it. Just do a couple whip finishes here. You can add some head cement right here to the thread wraps to keep that nice and secure. And let us know how you do with it. I think you're going to enjoy it.